When Francis Mutuku first came to Marungu about 35 years ago, he didn't have to worry about how he'd feed himself and his family. Back then, there was enough rain to bring about apple harvests, and enough to feed both his family and the elephants. But everything's changed with recent droughts. Let's take a deeper look at it, starting with peaceful coexistence. There used to be peaceful coexistence between his family and all wild animals around the region. His farm stretches over 5 acres and is bordered by 33 wildlife conservancies and private ranches, along with a huge Tsavo National Park. At first, he didn't have any problems with elephants. Both had just enough to eat. But during an interview last month over the same issue, Mutuku had a very different response. Things took a sharp turn, and he's now unable to plant a new crop in the newly farrowed land since he didn't know when it'll rain again. And it's the 3rd year in a row that the country has faced a drought. That hasn't just been hard on humans, but on the animals in the region as well. The drought around the Tsavo conservation area ended up bringing wild animals much closer to farmers, especially elephants, who've been searching the area for any food and water. A full-grown elephant can eat about 200 kilograms of food and drink 200 liters of water in a day. Rachel Kennedy lives close to the farmer and says that how the elephants move dictates when her kids go to school and come back. Because of such droughts, animals are now a lot less scared of people. She went on to say that whatever they plant, animals come along, and if they don't plant anything, they still come over. The farmers end up beating the iron sheets on their roofs to make them go away, but they're just used to it now. Not even shining torches at them worked anymore. Moreover, a dire situation. There isn't much they can do when they're up against a herd of 14 elephants. The ecosystem homes about 15,000 elephants, making up about 37% of the country's elephant population, according to its wildlife census. While the country has been trying its best to raise the elephant population, its outgoing tourism minister Najib Balala earlier this year told BBC that because of the ongoing climate crisis, 20 times more of them are dying, even when compared to poaching. The minister further said that the country lost 179 elephants because of this drought between January and July, since the country never really invested in biodiversity management. Now people are forced to figure out methods to keep wildlife at bay. Residents are forced to leave water outside in drinking troughs meant for cattle, so elephants don't end up destroying concrete tanks in their search for it. Kennedy had to move cows over to her ancestral home that's over 50 kilometers away. This move may help her in the short term, but it's only a matter of time till this problem runs out of control. However, with rains failing farmers again, there's been no way for them to collect any crops. The situation is creating a harsh competition between humans, livestock, and wild animals for the few resources available. Furthermore, poaching. People are affected by droughts and a lack of opportunities to lower tourism numbers because of COVID. The area has seen a huge rise in poaching numbers for bushmeat. Mwanyalo said that the Conservancy is losing up to 3 giraffes a day, with an estimated loss of over 100 giraffes to poachers this year alone. Poachers claim that the animal's meat is sweet, and they chase after it during the day with motorbikes and no longer fear anyone. Mwanyalo claims that they'd arrested about 10 of them so far, but many have escaped. Mary Wangio Wanyika, an officer in community development for the African Wildlife Foundation, or AWF, has a major assignment. She's trying to create awareness about the issue within local communities and help them figure out problems that these droughts have created. With the major problem being the elephant over there, the officer has urged locals to form a biofence around their field by planting sunflowers, a plant that's not only economically beneficial but also palatable to the animal. Lastly, implementing policies. The Tsavo area is low on water, and Wanyika, along with the AWF, is trying to help farmers save up rainwater by excavating water pans and provisioning dam liners. Though these measures are highly dependent on the area getting enough rain as well, a possibility that's pretty far away at the moment. She went on to say that it's extremely overwhelming, especially when dams dry up and its effects are seen over 100 kilometers away in all directions. Residents of the area, such as Kennedy and Mutuku, are clinging to new pledges made at the COP27 climate summit being held in Egypt next month. But as developed countries keep on failing over and over again to come up to their promises of assisting countries affected by climate change, being skeptical only sounds natural. Wanyika says that they have policies on paper, but now they need to go to the ground and make sure people listen to them and implement them. Though there are always talks going on, as long as no actual action is taken, they're doing nothing. They must consider their people at the center of all their decisions. Young Kenyan grower finds success in apple farming. Coming up, Peter Wambugu. The Wambugu apples originated from this farm, forerunner of the famous Wambugu apple farm that is all the way from Nyeri country country, Peter Wambugu. He went into the apple industry back in 1985, and over 34 years later, it's turned into a success story. The farmer says that at first he tried to get into the coffee industry, but he thinks it's just a headache, especially in his country where the pay is super low. Because of this, he decided to start up apple farming. He's mostly found walking around on his farm as he checks up on how his plants are sitting on his 3 acres of land at Ngobet village, 5 kilometers from Nyeri. He went on to say that not only are his apples sweet, but also taste great. One of the biggest reasons clients love his fruits. Since he's now a jovial farmer, he doesn't regret quitting coffee farming for apples, especially since Kenya mostly imports about 10,000 tons of apples each year, since the fruit is believed to only perform well in colder parts of the world. He then went on to talk about how a cold climate allows its trees to shed leaves, allowing the flowering process to start. Apples are a temperature fruit, and cold weather needs to break their dormancy. The apples at his farm are then cold pressed, which lets them shed some leaves at temperatures of around 7 to 10 degrees Celsius. Moving on to harvested twice a year. Since extreme cold seasons only come by in Kenya once a year in July, only then can most apples be harvested. But with this new artificial method to break their dormancy, the crop can now be harvested twice a year. Considering that flowering is the main issue when it comes to growing apples in warmer temperatures, the farmer says that just by hand removing its leaves, sprouting shoots, and then after 2 to 3 weeks applying a lot of water in them allows them to start fruiting and flowering by themselves. While the fruit can grow in multiple kinds of soil conditions, ideally deep and well-drained soil is preferred. Soils with somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5 pH levels are great for it. Wambugu, along with being a farmer, is a crop researcher who's managed to sail through farming apples. He claims that with this new method, Wambugu apples can now be grown in semi-arid areas and harvested twice a year, unlike other apple varieties, which take 2 whole years to fruit after they're planted. Wambugu's daughter, Catherine, who's also in charge of managing sales and marketing, claims that this variety can mature in just 9 months. Finally, more about his process. Carlo, Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization, along with KEFIS, Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, approved the product after a thorough analysis. Carlo themselves called it the Wambugu apple. Moreover, even its seedlings are taken extraordinary care of for 2 entire months in a nursery bed. Each seedling costs around 1,000 Kenyan shillings, and other than local clients, the farmer claims that he's also been able to establish a great market beyond his country's border. It's important to note that before they're exported, their roots are washed thoroughly to clean out any leftover soil. According to him, apple farming is one of the biggest ventures that doesn't need a teacher for someone to start. He then went into more detail about the process, saying that land preparation is just as important, saying that the holes dug should be 2 foot wide all around and have a space of 8 foot between each plant. The farmer prefers to use organic manure that's well decomposed and mixed in with topsoil, filling the hole to 1 foot in height. The leftover space is to maintain plants with more manure and water, though he does agree that using inorganic manure isn't that big of a deal, such as fertilizer, especially when top dressing. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts on the current situation in Kenya? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.